Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, TheBee at LLC. This is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar, and we hope to help you fill your honey pot as well. Today, we have a special treat. We have Aaron Berk from Harlan J. Berk. He's an expert, in my book anyway, on ancient coins. And let's have Aaron tell us a little bit about himself.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I've been, my father started my company in 1964. He started as a US coin collector when he was about 7 or 8, and then built our business. I came to work for my father in 1992, straight out of college. And when I started, I did artifacts first here. We deal in everything. So our company has US coins, world coins, ancient coins, antiquities, and bullion. And so when my dad started, he was just ancient coins and artifacts, and then we kind of grew and built on from there. And so when I came to work for my father, I started in antiquities, and I did that for the first 10 years. Then I moved into ancient coins and been doing that for the last 21, 22 years, plus still doing antiquities. So I'm an expert not only in classical antiquities, but also in ancient coins. And then we produce about 5 catalogs a year called a buyer bid catalog. And when I started with the company, it was a system my father started in 1980, where we listed items at a fixed price, and then we took offers below our asking price. And if you were the highest offer and it hadn't sold at its full price, you got it at that price, and there was no buyer's fees. And so when I first started with the company, we were on catalog 74, and
Oh,
today
wow.
we just finished our 226
Wow.
catalog. And so, so I do all the layout for the catalog, all the design, and I've been laying out catalogs. I mean, I did it in analog before digital, so I was actually cutting out photographs back in the day before there was digital cataloging, digital photos, and I could cut out about 300 coin pictures a day.
Wow.
So I was pretty fast. And then I'd actually have to razor blade like swords and all candles to vases. We had a black room here, dark room. And so I used to actually do the dark room work for the antiquities and literally have layout paper and then do different sizes on the enlarger and then come down, dry them really fast with a fan or with a towel because we were on deadline and get it off to the
Wow.
printer. And then I used to also paste down all the pictures from my father. So my father would lay out the coins, and then I would actually follow behind him without sneezing, where the pictures would go everywhere,
Oh,
and
man.
literally with a glue stick and glue every picture down.
Wow.
And if we needed to make a change, there was a way of tearing the photo without ruining it. Um, and if you know how printing works, even today, the mass printers can only do in ratios of 8s or 16s. And so you always have to be mathematically in one of those ranges. So back in the day, if we got to a point where our ratio was, let's say, if we had a 56-page catalog, we knew we could do it because it was a ratio of 8. But let's say we were at 57, and so you'd either have to come up with another 8 pages to get to the next rank, or you'd have to lose a page. And so we would literally, if we were there and we still had like some pictures to lay out, we would just say we're not laying those out because the cost to actually add 8 or 16 pages was ridiculous.
Wow.
Today with digital, now when I get done laying out the catalog, yep, that's the last catalog, and we just sent off. This is the newest one.
Oh, nice.
This one just got mailed on Friday,
Oh,
um,
cool.
so you'll get it soon.
Nice.
And so I do all the layout work for this, and get all these pictures down. But now it's so much easier because what I do is when I get everything laid out, I can go to the text because we actually separate the text from the plates. So, and we do that because it's cheaper. Because just to ship this catalog domestically cost my company about $6,000 in postage.
Wow.
And and so So when you have the text separated like this,
Yeah.
it's cheaper because you can then you maximize your
Sure.
real estate space, right?
Sure.
And also then what I can do is I can say, okay, well, I've got the text in place and I'm down to like I'm at 59 pages. Well, I know that I can take the text in between the lines and shrink it, and that'll give me 2 pages
Yeah. Wow.
less, or I can expand it. So I play with the text, knowing where to go to get the catalog I want without having to eliminate anything. And obviously, like, laying out photos are a lot easier. This whole catalog took me to lay out. It was 2.5 days.
Probably compared to what, 2 weeks or something before?
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks. The catalog process was a lot longer. I mean, these days it's a longer process because we're pretty much producing 3 catalogs, because you have the catalog for the web. We do videos of every single one of our coins in our catalog,
Yeah.
no
That's
matter
awesome.
what the price is,
That's awesome.
so people can see an in-hand
Yeah,
view.
I love that. Yep.
That's like producing a whole catalog, because we're not just doing the video, we're also color correcting to make sure that it's proper color as well.
Yeah. Wow.
I have all of the photos, because like this catalog had just coins. I think it was 700 lots of coins, and then we had about 60 antiquities. So if you think of just the coins, that's 1,400 images. To cut
Right.
out 1,400 images digitally, it's a lot of work.
No doubt.
And so I send those images to Bangladesh,
Oh, wow.
and they cut them out for 57 cents an image.
I see.
Which it goes a lot, the dollar goes pretty strong over there. But it
Yeah.
saves my photographer, it saves them about 10 days worth of work.
Wow.
And they can get that done in the guys in Bangladesh, it's a team. They can get it done. They keep up with us as we're shooting the photographs.
Awesome.
They're super fast. So, and then like it cost me about $700 per catalog for them to cut out all the images, which for them is a ton of money, right?
Sure.
And so I do outsource that part of it. But it's amazing how much things have changed in the last 30 years of me doing this. So
Well,
that was a long view with a lot of different parts. So
yeah, well, that just must be, I suppose, even I didn't really think about that, but I suppose in ancient coins, it's almost more important, the technology aspect of it for what you do, being able to, like you say, outsource, let alone find references and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure the computer made it, twice as easy, if not more than that, huh?
yeah, I mean, we're all a lot smarter. Everything's very transparent these days, because you can look up, see what somebody paid for something or what something sold for within the last 10 years, even 20 years.
Okay.
Because there's websites like Coin Archives is one, and AC Search is another one. Coin Archives is kind of the gold standard. It's very expensive though. It's about $600 a year, but it gives you every single auction worldwide for ancient and world coins going back to the year 2000.
Wow.
So that's over 20 years of auction catalogs and references. So you can literally piggyback off of cataloging from another company or 10 different companies to write up a coin. AC Search is, I believe, $125 a year. It's a lot cheaper. It's not as thorough. I don't like it as much, but it's still damn good. And so you can use that to not only catalog coins, but you can without having a library. I mean, you don't want to always take the very first reference you get. You want to take like maybe a
3 or
bunch,
4.
unless it's rare. So because somebody can make a mistake and then you're just copying the same mistake over and over and over again.
Sure.
But you can find pedigrees as well, which in ancient coins is extremely important. So I might, when I go to buy a coin, I may look it up because a dealer will tell me, oh, this hasn't been on the market. And then I do a quick search and I say, well, it just sold in December. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess it did.
Sure.
So everything's really transparent, and then I can say, well, this is what it brought in December, and the same coin came up 3 years earlier and it brought this, and the same coin came up 5 years earlier and it brought this. And so I can also then chart what ancient coins are doing in the marketplace on a day-to-day basis and fluctuate our pricing. And also I do a lot of auction representation. So I can then tell a client in fairness what I think a coin is going to bring in auction to make sure that they're successful without overpaying for it, but still being competitive. And so I basically somebody will say, I want to bid on this coin. What do you think our bid will, what kind of bid will we need? Then I'll go to coin, and for me, it's Coin Archives. I'll go to Coin Archives, research the coin, figure out what the highest price ever paid for one, and then go down and then find something that's comparable quality, and then figure out that sweet spot of where they're not overpaying, but they're still paying market price, and where they're competitive and where we need to let it go if somebody wants to bid higher. And then I base my own pricing in the same way, and collectors can do the same thing. You want to buy a coin. There's lots of resources to be able to go there and decide what is the right price point for you. And there's a lot of variables that go into pricing coins these days because pedigrees is so important. If your listeners don't know, anything before 1970 for the ancient coins, extremely important. That's part of the UNESCO treaty that was signed in 1971, which says that no institution or museum can buy an item that isn't proven to be out of the source country or out of the ground after 1970. So if it's before 1970 and they have a pedigree for it showing ownership, it was in a catalog, or they have physical proof that it was out of the ground and out of that source country before 1970, means museums can buy it and institutions can buy it. But more importantly, it means that it has no legality issues with that coin. Not that there is, but people will pay a premium now because they can now donate that coin to a museum if they want to down the road. And so I would say a good pedigree can add between 30 and 50% to the price of the coin. And it's not true in U.S. coins at all because there's no legality issues. And when I say legality, meaning there are no laws on the books that says you can't acquire ancient coins. What it means is what can easily come in and out of our country without issues. And so it kind of gives it a passport, if you will. And so anything that's in the United States is free game. You can import coins into the U.S. as long as it's not on a restriction or it has issues. Or it doesn't have the proper pedigree or whatever the case might be. I buy coins in Europe all the time and have them brought in. But I would say these types of resources, and also the fact is that it used to be that you only got a few catalogs a year from a couple companies that could produce a catalog. Now you have an e-sale or someplace to buy every single day, all over the world. And so it's kind of become a bit of it's kind of a cowboy. It's kind of like the Old West again, sort of. Because there's so many auction houses that have popped up all over that I've never heard of. They're all over Europe, and they're offering all kinds of like junky coins as well. Yeah. Charging their buyer's fees. They're charging. I mean, used to be when I started on the business, buyer's fees were 10 to 15%. Now the lowest buyer's premium you'll get in a standard auction is 20 to 22.5%, somewhere in that range. So, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the auction houses started giving away sellers' fees, part of the buyer's fees to the sellers, or charging them 0%. So it used to be that an auction house would charge 15% to the seller or to the buyer and 10% to the seller. So they were making 25%. Now companies like Heritage are charging 0% to the sellers or giving them part of the buyer's fees. Like they may even give them up to 5%. So they're getting 105% if you sell through like a company like Heritage. And so they're working on 15% total because they're charging 20. And so they're making less, but they're dealing in volume, right?
Yeah.
But there's basically good companies to go with and bad companies to go with for different reasons. So even though you might think, oh, I'm getting 105% or 100% from this auction house, they're going to tell you, well, we need you to go in naked, meaning you're not taking your clothes off. But what you're doing is it means that you're going in with no reserve. and they're going to say, well, we've got all this activity, we're going to do really well for you, da da da, because they want to start it out low, build the interest, and have it sell high. Well, it's kind of gambling at that point, right?
Sure.
It's taking a big risk. So you may end up selling it for less than what you paid for it in the end.
Right.
And then a company like Heritage will say, well, we need to get it slabbed by NGC. And then they're making you pay for the NGC slabs on top of that, which can get really costly. And so, and then it depends on what you're slabbing. And so, like my company, we don't deal in slabs at all, because we guarantee our coins, and NGC does not guarantee the coins.
Yeah.
And so it's really just an opinion for grade. And we don't sell our coins just based on grade. We sell it based on historical value, supply and demand, centering, metal quality, strike, artistic merit, and then grade, which is kind of all part of that anyway. So
Sure.
it's a totally different animal.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, grading. For sure, I've noticed from what I've looked into it anyway is a whole different ball game than modern coins, in my opinion. So yeah, that's what I was looking at some lots before we came on, and some nice looking coins, but that they were cleaned really, really harshly. Like you can see some type of tool work just gouging it. I'm guessing that was during the cleaning process, but yeah, there's so many different variable elements to
A lot of nuances.
to what makes a coin look good.
Right.
Like this one that I got from you
Right.
has toning. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Has a toning and a feel to it that that I just think adds to the coin. I mean it.
Yeah, that's a Cilician Tarsus stator. Beautiful.
Yeah. And
Beautiful
I just like the way that this has toning to it.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously, what do you so is in this center area here where it looks like it's a bit shinier in the fields, a bit shinier in the fields than on the side here. Is that just from how it was sitting? Maybe something was covering it, or what would you say about that? Like,
well, it's when these things come out of the ground, they're covered in sediment from the earth, and they're also very black. And so part of that black is just left over from where the cleaning didn't get finished all the way to the edge.
Yeah.
And then the toning is just, like your grandmother's silver, it tones.
Sure.
So that rainbow toning is just from being where it was stored. It's usually from being left in a safe deposit box or a wood tray where the gases get into the silver and actually give it vibrant colors. It's more important in U.S. coins than it is in ancients, but people like to see toning on ancients because it shows it's been out of the ground a while. One time we actually had a client that we built a collection for, and he put it all on display at the Cincinnati Museum of Art, and they had them in wood trays for about 12 to 15 years, rainbow toning over all the coins.
Okay.
And it was beautiful.
I bet.
Amazing. So
so like on the I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, you're fine.
So right on the top of the mouse's back,
yeah,
you might not be able to see, but there's kind of a little black line.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of some of the dark toning that just.
Yep. It's also a low point. It's in the crevice of the die, where the coin was struck. And so it just isn't cleaned out as much. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
But honestly, that just adds to the depth of the coin.
Yeah.
And so that's actually a positive.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I'm just kind of wondering.
The problem with slabbing ancients with NGC, and people always think I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. I just don't like seeing people overpay for the slab because it's just an opinion. And for instance, I was just looking at the Goldberg sale for a client on a coin, and he asked me what I thought the grade was, and they were grading it EF, and I said I think it's more VF plus, and he said yeah, that's what I think. But ultimately, in the end, the grade doesn't matter because we're looking at the centering of the coin, the rarity of the coin, and the quality of the coin. And I'm not going to pay more because they call it EF or I call it VF. I'm basing it on completely a different set of factors. And also, I have a rarity scale and also a grading scale in my head that might be different from somebody else's. It's just from experience. And so, why am I going to pay more for a grade based on what one company says it is?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And also, slabbing ancient coins is a new phenomenon relatively in comparison to U.S. coins. And U.S. coins, it's completely bought in, meaning that the whole industry is bought in to slabbing high-end U.S. coins. In ancient coins, only maybe 20 to 30% of the market is slabbed. The rest is raw. And in Europe, most of the companies do not sell slabbed ancient coins. The only time they'll put a slabbed ancient coin in one of their sales is if it has an NGC star, because they know that's the idiots that like buying starred ancient coins are going to pay too much for the coin. And so it's to their benefit to leave those in the holders and sell them that way. But you're basically taking a U.S. system made for U.S. coins, and you're trying to bottle it into an ancient system. And the difference is there's two major differences. One is you don't have any competition for NGC. So NGC is the only company that actually grades ancient coins. PCGS does not. ANA does, but no one respects them. They make a ton of mistakes. And I can tell you horror stories about that. So, and the other thing is they don't guarantee the plastic. NGC guarantees the authenticity on every single area that they slab, except ancient coins.
Yeah.
So that's a little like, and I've talked to them about that. Like, well, why don't you guys like self-insure for up to 25,000? They don't want to. And so it kind of, they're very good numismatists over there. They don't make a ton of mistakes, but they do make mistakes. Sure. And so they're trying to cover their own bottom line, but they have no skin in the game, So if they slab a coin and they undergrade it, it hurts the dealer that sold it, right? Yeah. Or the collector that bought it raw and then slabbed it, right? Yep. If they, so they're not, and they're still taking their fees. If for instance, they make a mistake and they call something fake, or they say undetermined, that kills the sale for the dealer or the collector that owns that coin. Right. They think, oh, nobody's going to want it now. Right. So, and I've seen auction houses lose tens of thousands of dollars that happening. Wow. And so, so if NGC makes a mistake, there's no recourse. Yeah. Right? So, and if they put a star on something and it brings 5 times what the coin is worth for whatever reason, because they weren't buying the coin anymore. They're buying the plastic, right? Right. Well, NGC is a for-profit company. So what's going to happen is that everybody who saw that is going to say, well, I have one. And they're going to submit it to NGC. Well, that's that many more submissions. Right. And then they're all going to give it to Heritage because Heritage is the one that sold it for that. Right. Company. Yep. And so it's going to give Heritage a ton of auction representation. But I can guarantee you'll probably be in the 1 or 2% chance of getting that same result. Yeah. And so to me, it's kind of a racket. And so that's kind of the problem.
That's why, I'm excited to be working with you. And since I've got in, I've been kind of watching that with the slabbing. And it's exciting for me because I think I can find coins that, like you say, for me, an artistic value, at least to the coin that to me is much more beautiful. Whether they market, problematic for what reason they might market. Right. I'm going to get a coin that I enjoy a lot more for a lot less money than a coin that I might not even get as much enjoyment out of, but they say it's a 5 of 5 for strike or something, So
yeah, and I can tell you that a lot of the dealers that used to slab a lot of coins with them are not slabbing as much because they're not getting the results they used to, and they can't figure out why. And so, and that's why I would never slab coins. I don't mind slabbing cheap coins, that like I'll slab like Widows, Pontius Pilate coins, but I won't have them grade them. I'll just have them holder them. because it's a nice starter coin for somebody and they want that warm and fuzzy feeling of a box by
Yeah.
NBC. And so, I don't mind doing that but I'm not going to live and die based on how they grade a coin.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense for me. And
Right, especially since it, like you say, and other people have said that it's not even. Like, it's like, why are you giving that coin this? And so many people disagree with the grades that
well,
it's.
and here's the bigger issue is that you're kind of moving over to the dark side, sort of, because what's going to happen is that you're going to finally get a star on a coin, and you're not going to even care that whether it really should be a star or not be a star, and you're going to ask an astronomical amount of money for it, way over what the coin is worth,
Yep.
because you got a star.
Yep.
Well, to me, that's not being a coin dealer anymore. That's being something else. That's like being a telemarketer. And I just don't want to be that. So, I just would never want to fall into those terms where I'm capitalizing off of the fact that NGC called it something.
Right. I mean, I see it as maybe it's problematic for the industry, but for me and you, I mean, I actually see it as being promising, because after a while, I think people are going to start seeing some of these raw coins that are selling for half the value, that are what I would consider maybe a better coin in some cases. So
It is, but I can tell you that the raw market's been very strong for the last 5 years, and I'm seeing like the most powerful auction houses in the world. They don't offer slab coins for ancients.
oh, really?
Heritage started out really strong, and they were getting a lot of collections, and now they've become a one-trick pony. And so, if you go to like the last New York sale, and I do a podcast on ancient coins, and if you look at the last podcast I did
Yeah.
a synopsis of this, and that is, if you look at the top stacks and heritage sales, the last couple of sales, you'll see only gold and silver, hardly any bronze, and that is because most bronze coins are smoothed or tooled when they were cleaned. And so heritage NGC calls that out on the slab, and they downgrade the surface value. Well, 90% of ancient bronze coins are smoothed because that's the way it is. And it's a difference between, like for instance, in Greek vases, most Greek vases are broken and restored. And so it doesn't hurt the value at all, because you're just.
So hold on. Greek, say that again. Greek vases are generally broke and restored.
Yeah, all ancient, almost 99% of ancient Greek vases are broken and restored. Because
Okay, because I was
when they're in the earth collapses and the vases break. And then they're brought out of the ground and they're glued back together. You fill the cracks where that crack needs to be filled, where it was glued back together. It does not affect the value whatsoever.
Get out of here.
Nope. And the only time you get vases that are unrestored is if they're really small and they just avoided it. So I don't ask any more for those, even if they're unrestored. It's just people like them better. So to me, restoring a bronze coin back to close to its original surfaces, you're going to have some smoothing. To me, that's no different than a Greek vase that's been put together. So, but again, if you go back to a heritage or somebody who just focuses on slabbed ancients, you're going to see Chrysos gold staters. You're going to see Egyptian gold staters. You're going to see Athens tetradrams and different types of tetradrams that are popular types, all in high designated grades or stars, because that is what those companies are going to capitalize off dollar value wise. They are not going to do well with bronze coins because they're going to be downgraded unless it's a really special rarity that people want, like the Colosseum. Then they will put that in their catalog. But you generally will not find a lot of like obscure rare coins that are going to be downgraded on the plastic, because their collecting base doesn't understand ancients. They're only buying the slabs. And so you're not going to get high designation. So they become a one-trick pony. And so if I go to a Triton sale or an NAC sale, which are some of the bigger auction houses, I'll see a variety of amazing coins from all different periods, because they're not based on the plastic. They're just based on the coins themselves.
Yeah. Well, there's a question here from Dutch Libertarian. How do you know you have a legit seller and price? And well, that's kind of what we're discussing here is, a lot of people are turning to just the slabbed NGC, and then therefore they say, well, I know it's legit. And then of course, if it has a star or a high grade, they're just willing to pay an astronomical price for that. And that's kind of where we're pointing out to be careful, is that if you can find just a good legit dealer like Aaron, who, or me, because I myself will guarantee the coins I sell, and Aaron, I'm buying them from Aaron, and he as well will back the coins lifetime as well. So if you can find a good dealer, you're going to find probably the coin that you want and the way you want it looking, and be able to come in at a good price and have a lifetime guarantee of, if you ever find, if someone ever calls you out on that coin and says, well, I know that's fake, well, you have nothing to worry about then, because
right. So another thing to add to it is, because what LLC is saying is exactly true, is there are organizations that we're members of, some of us larger dealers. One that's really the two biggest ones in the world for coins is the PNG, that's the Professional Numismatic Guild, and the other one is the IAPN, the International Association of Professional Numismatists. To become a member of either one of these organizations, you have to have been in business for X amount of years. You have to have like over $1 million inventory. You have to not have ever had a felony. You have to be voted in by all the peers of the organization. If you break any of the rules of any of the bylaws of the organization, you're kicked out. And so it gives consumers a place to go if there's a problem.
For sure.
So I might say, well, I guarantee everything for life, but then all of a sudden I say, I'm not guaranteeing that. That collector can go to the IPN or the PNG, which we're members of both, and they can go to their disciplinary committee and say, Berk won't pay for this. And it'll go through their bylaws. And if they find that I'm selling a fake, which is one of their bylaws, you can't sell a fake,
right,
I can be kicked out of the organization.
Sure. Okay, cool.
And so you want to look for those kinds of tag. Being a member of the ANA is not a good tag, because anybody can become a member of the ANA. You just pay a membership fee. There's no bylaws or anything like that. I'm sure you can be kicked out, but ultimately it's not the same.
Sure.
So so the PNG and the IAPN are two really good organizations to follow those dealers, and they're represented all over the world. And then also look to see how a dealer represents his inventory. Look at places like Coin Archives, look at AC Search. Don't go to Heritage only to look up prices, because Heritage is only going to give you the slab market. They're not going to give you the overall. But if I go to Coin Archives, Heritage is in there. I can see all the Heritage prices too, and I can say, well, that's an outlier because that was a star coin. So find a dealer that's willing to answer your questions, right?
Yeah.
And so I help clients all the time, bypass and navigate this tricky environment. Yeah. And so I have collectors that, I represent clients in auction. Sometimes clients will say, hey, what do you think of this coin? And it's a $500 coin. I'm going to be like, just represent yourself, take care of it. This is what you should pay. It's a legit coin. This is a good company. Don't worry about it. Or they might say, hey, like there was a French auction. The French auction houses are the worst to deal with in general, because it takes them forever to get their export papers. They typically, a lot of them don't ship, so you have to get an outside shipper. I just had a coin I represented a client getting, not knowing that it was another French company I don't like. Ended up being them. On a 700 euro coin, they charged $170 to ship it, which is ridiculous. They wouldn't use my FedEx number, which ends up costing me about $50 internationally, and I have insurance that's automatically included on all my FedEx packages, so I don't have to pay for insurance. Nice. So you got to know who you're dealing with as well. If companies are being really aggressive with you in selling you something, be wary.
Sure.
So I never push people into purchasing. I always tell them, when clients come in, they say, I really want to get in ancient coins. I really want to buy something. I tell them, I'm not selling you anything today unless you have to have it. I'd rather you just sit back, think about it for a while, look at different resources. I'll give you some direction, and then decide what you want to buy, because that first coin you buy isn't going to be the one within a few years, either you'll keep because it was your first purchase, or you'll sell it because you either made a mistake because it's not an area that you collect anymore because you're now into something else, or you overpaid for it.
Sure.
Whatever the case might be.
Sure.
So take your time. Collecting is not a sprint or a marathon. It is, or it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. That's right.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's good advice for sure. I know I find myself I get to looking at these coins and I just fall in love with them and I want to go too fast. I know myself I'm have to hold myself back a little bit too, because it's easy to get carried away. So
For sure.
one of these people here that just asked that last question says he's living in Europe. Do you have anyone over there that you would recommend?
Yeah, tons. Kunker in Germany is excellent. Gorny and Mosch in Germany is very good. NAC, which runs our auctions out of Switzerland, and they're in the UK as well. Who else? I mean, there's tons. I mean, you got to remember, ancient coins come out of Europe.
Europe, right?
So they were collecting ancient coins long before we in the United States were. So there's a lot of companies over there, and there's a lot of good ones. Nomos is another one that's good in Switzerland. They're mostly in Switzerland, England, and Germany. There are some decent ones in France as well. There's some in Belgium. There's an okay dealer in Japan, but they mainly sell slabs. And then there's lots of little tiny outfits as well.
Sure.
Products is okay. They sell a ton of stuff by e-sale. Roma is okay, even though he's had his own problems with legality issues. But that has nothing to do with his coins. There's a ton of e-sales out there. So two places I go is either Numis Bids or Bidder. They pretty much list every e-sale and every print sale in the entire world. So that's a good place to get registered, and you can bid through those services, so you don't have to register with every single auction house.
Yeah, I got Numa's bid open here. I might share a screen in a little while and show it to people.
And you can have want lists set up with both of those companies. So when somebody registers a new website, a new auction, it'll email you that your want list has been.
Oh, really?
Has been found. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I did not.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, if you're registered with either Numis Bid or Bidder, you can put in want lists.
Okay, that's
cool. I have one set for Cleopatra the 7th, and so anytime a Cleopatra pops up, it sends me an email and says,
"Oh, that's awesome." All right, cool. Yeah. So I had a couple questions from other people I want to get in before I forget. Josh Berman asked, "Do you know of a reputable Judea biblical coin dealer?" And of course, I'm thinking you. And also, what you interviewed? Who was it? David Hendon.
David Hendon.
And
so David Hendon is the foremost expert on Jewish coins. He's written all the books, Guide to Biblical Coins. He is the foremost expert in the world on Jewish coins. He is no longer in the retail side of things because he moved over to the academic side, and he is the vice president of the American Numismatic Society, ANS, which is one of the best. It's the oldest club, I believe, in the USA. They have one of the largest ancient coin collections in the world. And so if you get a chance, go to the ANS. There's a ton of resources there for studying coins, a lot of cool websites and links to references. They publish a lot of books, and they are kind of the organization for ancient coins.
Okay, cool. And then like I say, you Aaron here is
we sell all ancient coins, so we deal with a lot of Jewish. I have a very good source in Israel that I get things legally exported out of Israel with papers. Nice. And so I do get coins out of Israel occasionally as well. There's another guy, Zumi, I think is his name. He's out of you can probably find him on one of the numismatic portals. But pretty much every ancient dealer sells Jewish ancient coins.
Yeah.
Goldberg will sell Goldberg in California. They typically will auction off a lot of cool Jewish coins. So if you want more higher end, Jewish war coins, like their current sale that's coming up on Monday. I think it's Monday through Wednesday. They've got a bunch of Jewish coins in there.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I think this guy was new and was just kind of looking around and asking, and I just thought I told him I would bring that question to you. So.
Yeah, there's a coin mall also. Kind of just drawing a blank on what it is. V coins. So V coins is it's basically a coin mall, and MA shops is another one. That one's out of
MA shops. Yep.
So, there's MA shops and there's V coins, and that's dealers who don't want to pay for their own website. They use their website, but there's a ton of there's thousands of ancient coins up there, and you can search there for Jewish coins as well. And they've got a lot of inexpensive Jewish coins on there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then there was another question from another this guy. I have a few. Most of the people on my channel so far are just bullion stackers, but I do have a few people that are into ancients, which gets me excited. And I got one guy asking here, Kevin. He asks, my question for Aaron is, what is the best source to reference rarity? And I know I've asked you this before, but he says there are many types of similar coins, some rarer than others. The only way I've learned what a rare type is by word of mouth or personal opinion. And I'm wondering if there's a more established source of information specifically for BC Greek coins.
Again, go to Coin Archives or AC Search. If you do a search and hardly any come up, it's rare.
Gotcha.
Because those platforms have been around for 20 plus years. And if those coins haven't been coming up on a regular basis for the last 20 years, they're rare.
Gotcha. And that's Coin Archives, that's a bit more expensive, but the AC search is pretty readily available for that.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. You can get 6 months, I believe, for free on Coin Archives, but they only give you 6 months, the last 6 months of auctions. A year's is $600. I think for students, it's cheaper, and academics, he has an academic price as well. And then for AC search, I believe it's $125 or $150 a year. Okay. And I think you can even join for like months. You don't have to do a whole year.
Okay, cool.
So
awesome. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, I seen you. You just found a forger's die here of late.
I did. Right here.
That's cool. I know I was asking you early on if you'd ever come across those, and you said no, not very often. You had one or two, but now you just found one. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I actually got this in the Triton auction. So it's a forger's die from the time of Domitian, and it's actually a reverse die copying a Domitian denarius.
And a reverse, so that's the part that you would hit with the hammer?
Well, yeah, this would be clamped down.
Oh, that would be clamped down.
Hot planchet here.
Okay.
And then you'd have probably the top piece on a hammer or in another vise, and then you just hit it.
Okay, so that would be the bottom. Gotcha.
Yeah. So they're really, really rare. So
awesome.
Because official dies, usually they would keep breaking them until they broke apart and they get destroyed. So there's not many of them that survived. Okay. But there's forgers dies, they didn't mint as many coins, and so they usually survived.
Wow. Interesting.
So
you're probably are you going to put that up for auction, or are you holding on to that?
I don't know yet.
I'm sure it's probably out of my pay grade.
I never had one, so in 30 years it'd be cool to kind of hang on to it for a little while.
No doubt.
But I've had a couple people ask me if I was selling it, but I thought it would be cool. That's why I did the video, because I thought it would be cool to show.
Yeah. No, I'm interested in those as well. So that's cool to see. I was gonna ask you right quick. So if I was gonna bid on one of these like Numis bids, what does it take to? Can you can be an everyday Joe and do this, or do you need a company, or
nope?
And you just put your basic information in and you get on and bid.
Yep. Yeah, and the auction house typically would have to. They may ask you for references, and or not. And then they would give you a limit of how much you could bid, and that's it. And they would just say, okay. So yeah, it's not hard.
Okay.
Every auction house is different. in the way that they handle it. So you just have to, I get emails from auction houses all over the world because somebody gave me as a reference, and I look them up in my database and I say, okay, well, they've been with me for 2 years and they bought 5 times and I never had any problems, and I just email to the auction house saying all good on my end, and they say, okay, thanks.
I see.
Not hard.
All right. Well, yeah, it looks like we've been going for about 45 minutes. That's what I would like to try to keep these around that area. So I would love.
I talk a lot. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's what I need, because I'm so nervous for this thing. I'm really appreciative of you coming on my channel. It's
Sure.
it's a great honor for me.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and before we get off, I know you were just at the New York International. So, how was that, if you don't mind?
It was really good. It's a long week. I was there on the Monday before the show because the auctions start on Monday night, and so I was there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday bidding in auctions for clients, and I spent over $500,000 for my clients.
Wow.
In total. So I was pretty successful with a lot of clients on coins.
Nice.
And then, but it's kind of grueling. But you are spending other people's money, so that's kind of fun. But it can be a little stressful too, because you don't want to mess up.
Sure.
And then the show's set up as Thursday, and that runs Thursday through Sunday, so it's a long week. And then to come home and go right back to work. So it was a grueling week, but it was really successful. I met a lot of. If you don't mind, I'll plug. I have a podcast.
Totally.
So I do a podcast on ancient coins. So any of you new collectors, we just finished our 39th episode. So it's literally over 40 hours of ancient coin discussion. And you can find that on YouTube, searching the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, or you can go to my website, which is hjbltd.com. And then on the homepage, we have a link to all the podcasts, and you can go that direction as well. But I had literally at least 100 people come up and tell me they love the podcast, and so it's getting a lot of love from that. It was very humbling, and it's great because the way we do our podcast is we start out with we introduce ourselves, and then I bring up an auction that's coming up and talk about the auction house and talk about a couple of the coins in their auction, so people get familiar with other auction houses around the world, and talk about pricing and talk about a couple of interesting coins. We do what's called the doofus purchase, which means that somebody overpaid for a coin, in my opinion. So then I will list a doofus purchase and what not to do, teach people. And then we have an educational section. And so everything's a lot of visual. So it's a podcast, but it's more visual than anything else. And so we're showing a lot of pictures of coins, teaching. We have an educational section, and we have what's called a Pearl of Wisdom, which is just kind of our backing. And I do it with Mike Nodelman, who's been running the Coin Show podcast for about 12 years with another guy. And so he and I do it together, and Mike doesn't know anything about ancients. He knows about US. And so it's me teaching him about ancient coins. So he will ask the novice question for the novice collectors. And yet I cover things that will entice advanced collectors as well. And so there's a little bit for everything, for everyone. And so a lot of love from a lot of different people. And so that was really, really rewarding. And it makes doing that job a lot easier.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I have most of Aaron's information in the description below. If not, I will get it down there later. Yeah, I've watched all those episodes on the Ancient Coin Podcast probably 2 or 3 times. It's great information, really entertaining, a lot of fun over there. Mike's great as well. So
OC Stacker, if you can either reach out to LLC or myself, I do have coins of Marcus Aurelius, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Get a hold of Aaron or stay tuned here, and we can make that happen for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. I think I was going to mention that just for the people who don't know, I know you gave a little bit on your background, and we could go on and on about Aaron's background. I did want to mention, though, that he was noticed by Coin World magazine as top 100 most influential people in numismatics. on ancient coins. So
My dad and I together, which was
and
really
your dad twice, right? Too, or
yeah,
something like
twice.
that. So
Yeah.
cool.
So my
And
dad wrote the you can see it there on LLC
yep,
screen, the
yep,
100 greatest ancient coins.
yep.
He just finished we just published the third edition. And
Awesome.
so Whitman, who does it's a series, the 100 greatest ancients, U.S., currency, token.
Oh,
So it's a whole series.
I didn't know
So,
that.
yep. And so my dad was hired by Whitman to write it. So, and then they publish it. And only the U.S. series book and the ancient one has gone 3 editions.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that third edition from you. Cool. Yeah, let's see what. Oh, and then speaking of the 100 greatest ancient coins book, did he? I thought I was listening to one of your talks or somewhere along the line. Someone was mentioning that they ended up using his numbering system that
It says the
for.
coins of Chrysos. So my dad put together the most complete collection of Chrysos. Chrysos reigned about 546 BC, and he actually came up with the first gold and silver, or electrum and silver, multi-denominational series ever created. It was the first series of different denominations, going from a stater all the way down to a 1/24th stater. And then they were exchangeable in silver. And my dad had the most complete set. That's it. The most complete set ever put together. And there was one coin in the gold that was not discovered yet. And my dad knew it existed because the silver one existed. And then he found it. And
Wow.
so added it to the collection. And he's got a couple other trial pieces that are in the collection that were undiscovered as well. And so people started using that Berk system in the book so if you look up Chrysos, a lot of times they'll say Berk 2 or Berk 4. That's what they're referring to.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. Cool. Well, Aaron, I'm gonna wind this down. I'm hoping maybe in the future that or however you want, whatever you're willing to do. But I'd like to kind of maybe next time go over some of the auctions and coins that I might be interested in as well.
Sure.
I know the big sales just happened that you were at, so there's not a lot happening at the moment, but yeah, I'd like to do that too. Maybe in some future shows, look at some of the coins that I would be interested in, or maybe you can point some out that I wouldn't know about or whatnot. And
Sure.
So
There's
yeah,
always an auction going on. I'm bidding in Goldberg on Monday, so
okay,
it never really ends. But the major auction season is spring and fall, and then in January. That's it.
okay. Cool. Well, we will. I'll get with you, and we'll hopefully set one up for next month again. And thank you so much for coming on, Aaron.
Yeah, it
And
was my pleasure. And thanks, guys, for all your questions. I really appreciate it.
awesome. All right, Aaron. We will see you on the next one.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.